It's hour 2 of Wildcat Insider. Mitch Fortner, Wyatt Thompson, he's the voice of the Cats. AJ Shaw is our studio engineer today. The phone number is 785-537-1350. Make sure to stick around because we have K-State men's basketball tickets against Oklahoma tomorrow night to give away at the end of this segment. And that's a 7 o'clock tip tomorrow. Pre-game coverage here at 6. Wyatt Thompson, Stan Weber on the broadcast. And, we'll give away those tickets in the end of this segment. So if you know, you can definitely go to the game, use a couple of tickets, and you can pick them up tomorrow between 8 and 5. Get ready to win. You can be like Tim from Riley, who won the tickets earlier in the show. Going to get to more hoops here in a minute. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk women's basketball here in just a second. Wanted to give a shout to Tyson Neighbors. He's been named a preseason first-team All-American today by D1 Baseball. That was announced earlier today. Unanimous preseason All-Big 12 selection, first of all. And, shattering records as a sophomore, 185 ERA, 10 runs allowed earned in 48 and two-thirds innings, and led the Big 12 with 11 saves. And now he'll be back for another season with K-State, and obviously he's a huge part of K-State being a preseason top 25 team according to D1 Baseball, and select to finish 5th in the Big 12 this year. So good to see Tyson Neighbors getting all these preseason accolades. Not surprised.
No, and very, very deserving, and a terrific talent. Those numbers that you rattled off there, I'm sure most of your listening audience has a pretty good feel, if they're not baseball experts, that those numbers are impressive, and they are. And you think about that type of ERA at 1.85, I believe you said. You have 10 earned runs over 48 innings. That's crazy good. So it's nice to start the year with a guy like that at the back end of your bullpen, right? That's monster.
I think it's just incredible. He had 86 strikeouts. What is it, like 48 innings of work? He's averaging close to 2 strikeouts per inning. That's insane.
Power pitcher. Yep.
Throws the heat.
Yeah, he does. He's good. Can't wait for baseball. They're going to be good.
Yeah, not too far from now, February 16th. MLB Desert Invitational in Scottsdale is where they'll open up the season with 3 games. And typically it's been, early in the year, you're hoping the colder weather leaves the area. That way, when the home schedule opens up 2 weeks after the season gets underway, it's a little bit warmer. But K-State baseball season around here, it's not the warmest in the first month of the season. But they're only going to be actually on the road for the first week. And then they come home for their opening series against Holy Cross. But they'll have 3 games in Scottsdale. They'll have Cal, Boston College, and Georgetown. And then they're going to play at Arizona State on a Tuesday. So hopefully that'll be a nice little RPI game.
You betcha.
For the Cats.
I think they've tried to increase the non-con strength of schedule this year after just missing a year ago. Probably, frankly, should have been in, and they were not. So let's see if they can go do something about it this time.
Well, volleyball was also, they were in the same boat.
No doubt.
This past season, this past fall, where they definitely had a resume to get into the tournament, but because of RPI, and they ended up playing. The results really didn't matter. They ended up playing games against teams that were not good and had terrible RPIs, and that ends up hurting K-State at the end of the day. So, yeah, very annoying for K-State baseball and volleyball have to go through that the last calendar year.
I will say this. I love how Pete Hughes does those long road trips at the beginning of the year, because those, I think, are great for the team because they get to bond together, they get to know each other, and when you got new guys coming in, I think that's just perfect.
Well, and I love going on the road trips because that way you get to hear the behind the scenes, like pregame pep talks.
Sure.
And Pete Hughes is a great pep talk coach. Number of times, and I've done those opening road trips. Not doing it this year, but the opening road trips, wherever, Texas or California, Arizona, wherever we've gone, and we're at breakfast or whatever, or lunch, and we're getting ready to head out to the ballpark, and he always talks to the team beforehand and just, listen up, boys, here's this, here's that. And it's always good stuff. It's really good stuff. And I'm always pumped up for my broadcast after I hear that.
You know this about me. I love baseball. I love baseball, and I love baseball guys. Pete Hughes is a baseball guy. He's terrific at what he does, and can't wait to get it going.
Meanwhile, K-State women's basketball, new AP poll comes out today and has K-State jumped from 4 to 2, and K-State women continuing to win without Aoka Lee in the lineup. I don't think this was supposed to happen, guys. Aoka Lee, your All-American center, not with the team for roughly 4 weeks due to an ankle injury, needs surgery. That's now done. So hopefully she's back in 3-ish weeks now, maybe 2.5 now. But, last year it was a grind. They didn't win any road games in Big 12 play last year without Aoka Lee. They didn't win a single road game, period. It was a real grind without her. Now, because of that experience, they're more prepared for this kind of moment. Prepared to where they have beaten KU. On Saturday, they beat by BYU, and they went on the road in the midweek last week and beat a top 15 Baylor team 58-55 without Aoka Lee. They're 3-0 without the best player.
Yeah, I think the win in Waco against Baylor just carries so much weight because you're talking about a ranked team, a team that has kind of somewhat handled this league for a long, long time, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that was the first road game they'd played without Yoki.
Right.
And going there is always hard, and they found a way to do it. And then I'm almost as impressed with you come back home, you are off just a tick, you don't play necessarily your best basketball on Saturday against BYU, and yet you find a way to win on a day where you shot just 33% in the first quarter, and you shot 2 of 16 in the second quarter, and still won the game. Right? That's pretty impressive if you do that. And you talked about learning to play without her last year. That's so important for the Glenn twins and Sundell and Gabby and what have you. But man, it's impressive of what they're doing. Impressive.
Well, and they certainly wouldn't be in this spot without the kind of defense they're playing this
Sure.
year. I'm a broken record at this point, bringing up how good their defense has been. They are a top. When it comes to categories defensively, they are a top 10 team in so many categories, and that's incredibly important with this team. They're the best defensive player, in my opinion. They're the best defensive team in the nation. Now, in the BYU game, it was really tough for them because they drew a matchup downstairs that you would have really liked to have Aoka Lee, because BYU has a strong forward named her last name Lauren Gustin, who finished with 25 points, 21 rebounds. They just pounded it inside. It was just an easy go-to, the lob. It was like, oh gosh, this is what opposing teams go through when they have to play against Aoka Lee.
That's exactly right.
It can be this painful.
I don't know how you feel about that, but when you score 25 points in a college game, I don't care who you are, that's a really neat thing. But it is a boatload of work to get 21 rebounds. You have to be really, really good to do that, or dominant, or all of the above. That's a heck of a game, and she also played all 40 minutes and made 12 of 23 shots. That's a heck of a stat line.
Yeah, doesn't come out of the game.
Crazy.
It's just she was real strong, like legs are jacked. She's real strong. It's really tough person to guard, especially one-on-one, spread out. Even if you are an Eliza Maupin or a Gisela Sanchez, or even who, I don't know if she's the strongest in the weight room, but when she flexes her biceps in the pregame video, she may be the strongest player on the team. And Gabby Gregory, it was really tough to guard Gustin, and she was really good. But K-State found a way to win, and it came down to a couple of buckets. K-State getting to the free throw line. Boy, they for a while could not buy a 2-for-2 trip. I don't think they had one until Serena Sundell had a 2-for-2 trip with like 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. What else has been a big key for K-State in Aoka Lee's absence is somebody stepping up off the bench that normally doesn't start and making an impact. And we saw a couple of in the KU game, Zy Walker have a really good game. Against Baylor, it was Eliza Maupin, 16 points, 9 rebounds, perfect from the floor. She also had a good game against KU. And then in the BYU game, and, I felt like before that game, I kind of wrote her off a little bit because she was trying hard to play the 5 spot. She isn't a 5, but she's trying. But she was picking up a lot of early fouls. This was Gisela Sanchez's line in the Baylor game. No points, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks, no turnovers, no free throws. 4.5 minutes, but 3 fouls. Against BYU, 7 of 12 from the field, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 assists, a foul in 23 minutes, and what was really important, 3 of 5 from 3-point range.
Sure.
She has represented Spain on a national level. And we knew going in this season that Gisela Sanchez could be silently a really good shooter and be a pretty big spark off the bench. Hasn't had the best season in the world, but when K-State really needed it against BYU, she was coming in with some key plays.
Yeah, great point. For her to get 18, following the stat line that you read in Waco, probably tells you why K-State won the game. As I mentioned, they were off a tick. It wasn't like they normally are, but I think you probably look at, there was a couple of monster plays late by Sundell. I remember Zy Walker hit a big 3 pretty late in the game, but for Gisela to have 18, that's big time.
Well, I mean, in the Baylor game, Gabby Gregory was also really big. 16 points. It was 3 of 6 from 3.
Yeah.
It took her a while to get going in the BYU game. Serena Sundell has, I think, done a great job, at least offensively, trying to put this team under her wing, being the leader, trying to kind of this court general in guiding the team to victory. She had in this last game against BYU, Serena finishes with 14.7 rebounds, 8 assists. She was knocking on the door of a triple-double. And against Baylor, Serena goes 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals. So she was getting done on the defensive side as well. That's another player that has really grown up thanks to that season last year without having Aoka Lee. Now, it may be fitting for Taryn Sides now because it's been kind of every game another player steps up, and Taryn Sides has been really quiet in Big 12 play. Her numbers have really been cut down. I should say minutes have really been cut down since Big 12 play started. She struggled a little bit. It would be poetic if it was against Oklahoma because Oklahoma for years had Taylor Robertson, who's the Big 12's leader all time in 3-point field goal makes. She's from McPherson, and she was just a killer from 3. Well, Taryn Sides can be a sharpshooter, and I think she will be in her career. I'm getting this from Randy Peterson. Randy, actually, before our press conference we had last week with Mitty, he mentioned that Taryn Sides most likely will be like a Kindred Wiesman. And Kindred, started out really good as a freshman, and then when Big 12 play rolled around, really slowed down, hit the brakes, wasn't playing as much, but then she turned into one of the best point guards when she played junior senior year, one of the best point guards in the country.
Agreed. Yeah. And excuse me, I would tell you I'll be surprised if Taryn doesn't end up being somewhat similar to that. She has all the basketball feel that you could want. She's learning, there's no doubt, adjusting to the college game. But I love the way she competes. She gets the game. She gets the game. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
It's unreal what this team has been doing so far. They're 20-1. They are 9-0 in the Big 12. Both best starts ever. They are the number 2 team in the nation. They've only done that for 1 week in program history. 1 week ever. And that was week 3 of the 02-03 season. So this has been over 2 decades in the making to get back to this level of K-State women's basketball.
Yeah, and this will be a monster week for them.
Big.
They're on the road twice, Oklahoma and then Texas. Wednesday and Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, and of course, K-State's already beat them at home.
Yeah.
But now it's the return trips, and, it'll be interesting to see what can K-State do against those two on the road without Aoka Lee, especially against Texas, because Texas is really athletic.
Oh, yeah.
And they are athletic at all positions. And they have depth. So that's going to be a really tough ball game. Against Oklahoma, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think K-State can go win a game. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's, it seems almost impossible for K-State to just continue this run and get through all these games without Aoka Lee and go undefeated. That's definitely not the expectation. First of all, it's the Big 12 conference. It's the second best conference in women's college basketball.
Right.
So it's a really tough ask, but what a courageous, gritty, tough 3 wins that they've pulled out so far without Aoka Lee.
For sure.
Like I said earlier, this probably wasn't the way things were scripted. If you ask the national writers, because there's even somebody that was like, well, we're moving them up in the poll, but are they really the number 2 team in the nation without Aoka Lee? Or are they just moving up because, well, all these other teams are losing? Well, did we forget that they beat Baylor without Aoka Lee? That's a top 15 team. I would say they earned their way to the number 2 team in the nation. No doubt. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get that writer on the show, and we'll talk about it. But anyway, that's going to be a 6 o'clock tip on Wednesday. We'll have it here on K-Man. So very much looking forward to it. I am their biggest fan.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely their biggest fan, and I love the Gab Goat thing, and everybody now, they're embracing it. They're getting their own baby Gab Goats. That's a lot of fun. That's just another storyline to what this season has been. But it's also the story of this team to me has been its defense. The offensive numbers aren't going to be like, oh my gosh, man, they're shooting that well. It's not like that. They're not one of the best shooting and scoring teams in the Big 12. But man, is their defense phenomenal. It's because of Gap Goat.
You think?
It's because of the mascot. Yeah, absolutely. It earns its change after those 7 gaps, 3 stops in a row. I don't know how many they had against BYU, which, by the way, I forgot to bring that up. So the BYU win, unfortunately, ended K-State's streak at 13. 13 consecutive games of not allowing opponents to score 60 points.
Really?
13 straight.
That's impressive.
And obviously, with winning now 14 in a row, K-State has not lost since playing Iowa. What was that, the day after Thanksgiving? So K-State hasn't lost since November.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
Sure enough.
Let's take a break. When we come back, so obviously we just talked about it. It's a big week for K-State women. It's also a huge week to get things back on the right track for the K-State men. That's coming up next. Wyatt, I blew it. I was supposed to give away those 2 other Oklahoma tickets at the end of this last segment. Sorry, folks. I just have to stay with us a little bit longer here. We'll do it at the end of this segment. AJ, make sure remind me if I forget. Cut me off and say, Mitch, give away the tickets. Nope, I will take the blame. That's on me. So into this segment. Well, we're back into men's hoops now. We're on topic for the tickets. So 2 tickets for tomorrow's game against Oklahoma. Which is at 7 o'clock from Bramlage Coliseum. And if you want 2 tickets, make sure to get ready to call in at the end of this segment for your chance to win, if you can come pick them up between 8 and 5 tomorrow. Really, the theme of the segment is what's coming up for K-State. It does include Oklahoma, and then a return trip to Gallagher-Iba Arena to play Oklahoma State for the second time. Your toughest 2-game stretch is now in the rearview mirror. And Jerome Tang, I want to play a clip from his press conference earlier today. I thought he had a neat stat on how hard it is in the Big 12, especially so far this year, to go win on the road.
11 of the 14 teams in the Big 12 have lost back-to-back road games. 6 of those 11 played back-to-back road games and lost both. And so, what just happened, we just played 2 ranked teams on their home court. They're probably both 2 top 10 teams in the country, and lost a close one at Iowa State, and then ran into a buzzsaw. So we move on.
Yeah, solid stat, really is. Doesn't completely, of course, justify losing those games, but at the same time, I'm like, ask any fan, I'm like, did you, it was going to be really hard, extremely hard to go win those games. Iowa State was a winnable game. You felt like that one maybe in a way both got away from you. You had your chances to take the lead, but also, there were definitely some calls that didn't go your way, and that really sucked. Houston is insanely good. That is a Final Four team. That is the best defense in the nation. And by the way, shooting the ball, had a really good night. Had a really good first half. It was more of an even game in the second half, but was Houston really into it? The game was over. They were up big. Heading into half, it just wasn't. K-State's chances just weren't there really against Houston. But those two games are behind you now. K-State this season, we knew they were going to have to go in what is an unbalanced schedule now. You knew they were going to have to go on the road and play at the toughest environments the Big 12 has to offer. Meanwhile, for KU, Bill Self has the argument that, maybe the Big 12 title now isn't as prestigious anymore because of the unbalanced schedules. Well, whatever you think about that is fine, whatever. But they have to play the toughest home and home schedule. This your home and away schedule against the teams they have on their schedule. But what comes up next for K-State is Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, KU, BYU, TCU, Texas. It is a tough stretch.
Sure.
But it's not just consecutive games now back-to-back on the road against the two toughest defenses in the Big 12. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, they lost those two games, but it's definitely not the end of the world. This team can definitely still be a tournament team. The record of 9-9 was brought up earlier, and I agreed with Jerome Tang that said if you get to 9-9, you absolutely deserve to be in the NCAA tournament, and I agree. I think there's no doubt if you get to 9-9 in the conference, you're into the NCAA tournament. But now, just remember, K-State no longer has that stretch of really back-to-back difficult road games. There's actually one other stretch this year that K-State will play back-to-back on the road at Cincinnati, at KU.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's tough.
Cincinnati's better than you think. Yeah. They are 32nd in the net. Just a couple of other thoughts here with work to do. You're right. There's still a lot of season to go, and your schedule is so tough that just playing these teams helps you if you can win a few of these games. But they need another quad 1 win or 2 or 3
For sure.
or whatever you want to say. They're 1-3 in quad 1 games and 73rd in the net today as we speak. Put into perspective what you talked about a moment ago with the tough road trip. Houston's 1 in the net, and Iowa State is 10.
Yeah.
You realize Houston is 6-2 against quad 1? That's pretty hard to beat. They are really good.
Well, and where's Oklahoma at? I don't imagine Oklahoma.
Well, they're in the middle 30s the last I looked. Let's look at that.
So that'll be a quad 2, right?
Yeah, Oklahoma's 34 in the net. And they are 2-4 in quad 1 games.
Well, the big key is, can K-State win a game or two at least in Big 12 play? Other than the West Virginia game. Can they go to a BYU and Oklahoma State Saturday, that to me is a must-win. You can't afford to slip up in Stillwater against a team that's struggling like Oklahoma State. Yes, they just beat West Virginia, and that's great for their first Big 12 win. You don't want to lose it. I don't think any of these two games they played this week, you can't afford to lose. I guess you could maybe, but you definitely don't want to lose those games because then, you just don't have any momentum before KU comes into town a week from today.
Yeah. OSU, by the way, is 138 in the net. So if you can get to this week going into next Monday as we talk next week, previewing the KU game, and you've got a chance to win 3 in a row here, certainly things would look a lot better. And I know the coaches are not looking at it that way. I know how they think. They're thinking about tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Oklahoma here in just a little bit, but they've lost back-to-back home games to Texas and then, of course, to Tech this last weekend, 85-84. But they are a different-looking Oklahoma team than they were last year. We'll talk about that in here in a little bit.
Let's go ahead and take that break because the key here was, and the topic is, does K-State Can they win these home games? Home wins are incredibly important now because it's just going to be tough to go win on the road. And the way I feel about this K-State team, do I think they're going to get better or worse? I don't really think either. I think what we know about K-State now is what we're going to get. They're not going to get any worse. I don't think they're going to get a whole lot better. They're going to have to grind out these home wins, which they have done so far. On the road is a different animal, but it's also the Big 12, and that's the expectation. It's just about going, if they can steal a win or two on the road against a quality opponent, is going to be the difference if K-State can make it into the NCAA tournament. All right, before we take our break, here's those tickets we're going to give away. 2 tickets, K-State men's basketball against Oklahoma. Tomorrow night, Bramlage at 7 o'clock for the tip-off. If you want to go, you can use 2 tickets, and you can pick them up tomorrow between 8 and 5. Now is the time to call in. 785-537-1350. Again, the phone number, 785-537-1350. Call number 6 is winning the tickets, and we'll take a break on Wildcat. I'm just enjoying the Biggie Smalls as we come back into the show.
The what?
Notorious B.I.G.?
Oh.
Why you probably don't have a favorite rapper, do you?
I do not have a favorite rapper.
You didn't get into it?
I don't think I could give you a name of a rapper. Is big.
Oh, come on. You know a few out there.
No, I don't. Honestly. Seriously.
AJ, name us a rapper. We'll see if Wyatt knows him or her.
I'll give you just a simple one. Tupac.
Tupac?
I've heard the name. I literally could tell you nothing about Tupac. Nothing.
What about Ice Cube?
I've heard it.
Dr. Dre?
Same.
Could you name more Ice Cube movies than songs?
Doubtful.
You ever seen the movie Friday?
No, sir.
Oh, add that to your list.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I know you're a big movie guy.
Yeah, I am. I love them. Don't see as many now as I once did, but.
Well, we're back on the Wildcat Insider. Mitch Fortner, the voice of the Cats. Wyatt Thompson, AJ Shaw is here with us as well. Gave away the tickets. I'm out of them for now, unless something comes up. 2 more tickets given away for K-State Hoops against Oklahoma tomorrow. David from Manhattan has won my last pair of tickets. Cats trying to come off this 2-game skid on the road. They're back at home. Meanwhile, Oklahoma is 15-5. I believe they're still in the top 25, right? They're 22nd, 23rd, something like that.
I think they're 23rd in the AP poll and 24th in the coaches.
Well, Oklahoma and K-State have something in common. They've both lost 2 games in a row. But for Oklahoma, they are both at home. They lost to Texas 75-60, and then that heartbreaker to Texas Tech, they lose by a point, 85-84. What should we know about the Oklahoma Sooners?
Very different looking team than the one that we saw a year ago. I'll refresh your memory on some of the names of the players that they lost. Grant Sherfield, really good player. Tanner and Jacob Groves, Jalen Hill, C.J. Nolan, give you just a few names. The guys that are back, probably without a doubt, Milos Uzan, who's their point guard, is the lone returning starter, and Otega Owe, who last year played in 28 games with 9 starts. Those 2 guys are certainly probably the lead guys on their team in terms of the returners. Sam Godwin, their 5-man, has played a couple of years now at Oklahoma. 2 guys in that starting lineup, though, that are new, that are really, really athletic, and I think will create some problems for K-State. One is their 4-man Jalen Moore, transfer from Georgia Tech, good, bouncy athlete. And then Javian McCollum, who's from Fort Myers, Florida, and went to Siena. Good scorer. He only had 7 points in the game Saturday and didn't shoot the ball very well, just 2 of 11. But he's been really, really good. 36% from 3, 43% from the field. Takes a lot of shots. And then they're about 3-ish deep on the bench. A transfer from Utah Valley, 1 from Pitt, and 1 from Oregon. John Hughley's the big guy. You'll know who I'm talking about when you look at the body. 6'10" and about. Let's say he's tipping it at about 275 probably. And then the Darthard kid on the wing shoots 33% from 3. and Rivaldo Soares from Oregon. He had 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists on Saturday. That's a pretty good day at the office. That's pretty good.
I was interested to see how Otega Owe would do this year. You mentioned him.
It's tough.
Yeah, how many starts last year? 8 or 9?
9.
Yeah, and I think he was coming off the bench against us when they played in Manhattan last year. And
Interesting.
K-State,
I'm sorry. I'll just add this. Those 9 starts, all at the end of the year. 9 consecutive starts at the end of the year. So he was really making his way when last year ended.
well, and he wasn't a three-point shooter. He's more of an inside scorer. And, I mean, he kind of killed us last year with 18 points.
Yep.
I mean, he was 8 of 12 from the field. I was like, this kid's a freshman. My gosh, he's going to be a pretty good kid. Does he transfer after this year? He didn't. He sticks with Porter Mosier, and now he's averaging 14 points a game. He's added the three-point shot to his game. I'm surprised he doesn't shoot it more actually from 3. Because I think he's only he's maybe 2 a game, maybe, but he's like 53% from 3.
Yeah, he's made 17 of 32, and he's shooting 54% from 2.
Yeah.
So he's doing a really good job. I mean, this is a 4-star kid. He's got a brother that started yesterday for the Ravens. I mean, clearly he's an athlete, and he's 6'5", 215, and really strong. They didn't win the game Saturday, but they were in it because of him late. He could make some really tough shots on the drive and those kind of things. Just a good quality. And here's the thing. When you put Moore, Owe, McCollum, and Usan together, that's pretty good athleticism. Now, Godwin's a little different. Not that he's not a good athlete, but not to those guys' level. He's more of a just add to it kind of guy. 6'10", 235, good passer, moves around a little bit, do some things. But those 4 other guys that start are really good athletes, really good.
2 years in a row, Porter Mosier has misheard something I've announced and made a substitution and then got angry with me, kinda, but really kind of got into it with the officials because they were confused about fouls.
Okay.
That has happened 2 years in a row with Oklahoma in town, so do we make it 3 for 3? Find out in Bramlage Coliseum tomorrow night.
There you go. Interesting.
Porter Mosier, though, he's a cool guy because I've interviewed him a couple of times at Big 12 Media Day, and he's always cool about, of course we can talk shop, talk about the game. With the Media Day stuff, that's what they talk about all day.
Right.
Let's talk about other stuff.
Right. They probably enjoy that.
Yeah.
Get a little different type of question in there from time to time.
We got to talking about the Footloose soundtrack at one point. I'm like, the conversation just got so sidetracked. I had a blast with Porter Mosier. He probably talked to me for 15 minutes, and he was supposed to move on and do other stuff, but we just shoot the breeze for a while. He's a cool guy. Of course, I'm not an Oklahoma fan, but I do like, and of course, his, Loyola Chicago, kept us out of a Final Four, but he's a neat guy. It's cool to see him having some success because I was wondering, okay, if this isn't a good year for Porter Mosier, he may be on his way out of Norman. So, I'm rooting for him because he's a good guy.
Well, let's put that into perspective, okay? First year, 19-16.
Yep.
Not a bad start. Last year, a little bit of a dip. They were 15-17. Retooling with some of those better athletes I was talking about, now you go 15-5. So they've already equaled last year's win total. And they're currently, 3-5 in the league? You know what they were a year ago in the league?
3-15?
5-13. 5-13. That's not great. So they're better. And they're ranked. So I think most people would have them in right now as a tournament team pretty handily. There'll be a tough out.
Let's take our final timeout. We'll finish up Wildcat Insider next. Take a look at this week in the Big 12 of men's college hoops. Very interesting week for Houston. 2 big road trips. They have Texas tonight, then they're at KU on Saturday.
Nice of the Big 12 to do that to them, right?
Yeah, right.
No, I'm kidding. What happens to everybody, and you played that bite from Coach Tang earlier. That's the hard part about the league. You're playing hard games night in and night out, and to play 2 road games like that in a week is really, really difficult. But I'm anxious to watch Houston at Texas tonight after we were just there and seeing how good they are. I get it that they're on the road, but wow, are they good at home defensively.
Texas has had a real up and down Big 12 so far. They barely squeaked out one against Cincinnati, but they've lost to Tech, UCF, West Virginia. I mean, they kind of a similar schedule as KU. They're losing against teams you wouldn't expect them to lose to.
Yeah, and I think with Texas, it's kind of interesting. It seems to me like the guy who's playing really, really well right now is Dylan DeSue. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they're getting out of what the other guys that they necessarily want. I mean, Tyrese Hunter's been good. I don't know that he's been great. But this team right now is DeSue and Max Asmus. Asmus can score, man. He's really – he can score at all three levels. He's way good.
Interesting to see how Texas Tech and TCU plays out on Tuesday. They'll play at 6 o'clock.
And they really love each other. That's a family thing there. No, I'm kidding. That'll be a war.
Wednesday, KU hosts Oklahoma State. Sorry, Cowboys fans. Sorry, Mike Boynton. Good guy, but not going to get it done in Lawrence. Nothing too great on Wednesday.
I don't know. You may be surprised. I think UCF can give Baylor a run.
Yeah, UCF hosting. If it's at UCF, maybe give the Knights a chance. Johnny Dawkins has already kind of proven some few people wrong about how well they'll play basketball. Because I thought UCF basketball would be the team that has the toughest adjustment to the Big 12 because UCF basketball hasn't been good for a while.
Yeah. This is a more athletic team than you think, though. They led for a large part of the game at Cincinnati the other night, only to fall late. They just did not play very well. They kind of went into an offensive funk in the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game, or maybe even a little bit longer than that. But for about 30 minutes, they were clearly the better team, which says something to me because I think Cincinnati is more talented than you realize.
They are. Yeah,
they are. And they've been pretty competitive. And their coach, tough. He's a little guy, but he's tough.
People say he looks like me, or I look like him. He's my doppelganger. Yeah. I forget his name, but Cincinnati is that team that is the good team that nobody knows about, really.
Yeah, it's Will Wade, isn't it?
Look
it up real quick for me. I'm firing myself for not thinking of that right off the top of my head.
I forget.
Brain hemorrhage.
Wes Miller. Oh gosh.
And he is. I think he's a really solid coach. Yeah, really solid coach. Beautiful arena too, by the way.
Real quick, does the camera angle at at Baylor just irritate the heck out of you?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know that they can do anything about it now, though.
Not this year.
No.
I mean, they're still building, so you never know. They'll maybe make the adjustment. All right. It's time for us to wrap up. Wyatt, thanks for stopping by once again.
Absolutely.
For AJ Shaw, the voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson, I'm Mitch Fortner. That'll do it for Wildcat Insider.